out there is saving people. The driver who was shot said that a crimson angel brought him to the hospital.
You think because you can run real fast that you're invincible? You're not.
When I'm out there helping people, making a difference, you're all out there with me. We were all struck by that lightning. The streak lives.
Hey everybody, what the flick? Belatedly getting to The Flash, the pilot City of Heroes, Alonso, Duralde, William Bibbiani, Francis Maxwell. I don't know that I'm down for this yet, but I know you guys are really enthusiastic, so tell me why.
Okay, well, first off, I'm coming at this from, I'm a fan of the series Arrow. Which I feel is occasionally it's kind of silly, but it really strikes a great balance between sort of taking superheroes kind of seriously, but also enjoying the fun of it, having a good soap opera dynamic, and really exploring what it's like to become heroic in a world that doesn't really allow for that terribly often. And I enjoyed the first couple episodes of that series where they introduced Barry Allen before he actually became the Flash. And I'm watching this series now, and I'm seeing this as a much more lighthearted, enjoyable approach to superhero live-action TV storytelling. The special effects were great. The cast was very, very charming. They're doing a very, very good, we'll talk about that. They're doing an incredibly good job of establishing a lot of things for later on that fans of the comics are going to totally geek out about, but without like making it too dense or incomprehensible,
Sure.
or even calling like comical attention to them. Like I much preferred the way that this series sort of, just sort of incidentally, oh, we'll get to Gorilla Grodd, as opposed to, oh, and her name is Ivy. That might be important in 20 years. It's not subtle, but it's playful and it's fun and it's nice to see an efficiently told, well-produced television series that's about the fun of superhero comics and not about how it needs to be all grim and gritty. I'm enjoying it on a lot of different levels. What about you? You're not a Flash fan.
I have the outside perspective of it because I am not a huge fan of the comics. I never really read them or really understood them, to be honest, like to watch it. So I'm coming in at this from a completely new perspective, which is a good thing because it's a new show. And wait for it, pun intended, I feel as if it hit the ground running. Got it.
Okay.
Yeah, I thought it was a lot of fun. I felt that I didn't have to be a fan of the comics to understand it to start with because it kind of just brings you into the action. And as far as the cast, never really knew anyone from before this show, before I watched it. I think I want the, what's his name? The creator of
Harrison Wells.
Harrison Wells, he was in Scrubs before. I used to watch that when I was younger, so I knew him before of that.
When you were younger, how old is that show?
Back in the day.
Okay.
I'll tell you kids about it.
Jesus.
Back in the day.
But I
You
thought
don't
it
have
was,
a day. You're in your day.
But I thought it was very well done. I really loved basically the character. How the only thing that I thought was a little confusing was I thought that he was a newly found superhero because of the accident that happened. But then when he looks back at his childhood, he thinks that the same thing might have happened to his mother.
That is a thing from the comics.
That's another setup thing. The guy that you see in yellow when he thinks about it the second time, that is what DC Comics would always refer to in the first reference as Professor Zoom, the Reverse Flash of the 25th century.
That's right. Now Professor Zoom is or Reverse Flash, and they're actually like different names for different characters. But basically, he's evil version of the Flash, but he's always had very interesting motivations. I mean, my favorite interpretation was, and I guess they're not going with this, he was a guy the Flash knew named Hunter Zolomon, who believed that he became a villain not because he wanted to hurt anybody, but because he wanted to make the Flash a better hero.
Okay.
So he would do things and would eventually even go back in time to try to create more dramatic, inciting incidents to try to give him something to overcome so he could become greater. And I don't think they're going with exactly that character, but they are going with a similar plot point.
Right.
Yeah.
And obviously we're playing around a lot with time since at the end we find out that dun dun dun, the crisis is coming. So
Yes, in
there's
8 years, so we have plenty of time.
So stock up on canned goods now.
Yeah.
Okay, now I'm not a super fanatic about this stuff, but I mean I am watching this show mainly because I'm excited that Ted Kord will still be alive.
Yes.
So that's my level of geekery here.
He's on the Arrow right now if you want to watch it.
Well, don't push. You're always pushing the arrow on me. I don't have time
like
for the
the
arrow.
show. All right, fine.
Anyway, okay. The show is doing. We talk about this a lot with pilots about it's about putting the pieces on the board and setting things up. I kind of felt like, wow, okay, so we have the unsolved murder and the unjustly accused dad, and the aborted romance with the childhood sweetheart, and
There's like 4 or 5. That sounds so bad.
I don't know, but they all.
Gotham, that's pretty good.
Well, yes, if this is the bar, but
Yeah.
I kind of felt like and it's not that it was so many. I think it was that I could just feel the bricks sliding into place. I think it could have been written a little more gracefully. Greg Berlanti is not always my favorite TV writer in terms of delicacy. Also, it's like, okay, if you're gonna make Barry Allen a teenager, that's one thing.
He's not a teenager.
That's the thing, but he's not a teenager, but he looks like one.
He does look really young.
He looks like his superpower is that he just got his first pube, okay? And so I thought, like, all right, if he's going to be working for the cops as the CSI guy, I'm not buying the mean gay guy from Glee as this dude. Okay. Like, he's too young looking.
I can see that, and he does seem a little young to be doing the job he's doing, especially alone. They have only one CSI guy.
He's the whole department.
Essentially, I'll give that. There are little flaws in this that I will grant that even though I loved it, I watched it twice. I was like, oh, I want to see that again. This was great. What I will say is that this wasn't just written by Greg Berlanti. It was also co-written by Jeff Johns. Jeff Johns wrote probably the signature run on The Flash. And he's bringing a lot of the things that he did very, very well in that series to this show. One of them is a certain amount of efficiency to the way that he parcels off information, tells the story. He doesn't let it digress, but every single scene serves 4 or 5 different functions. Yeah. But he also manages to fit in a lot of development and a lot of build up to really, really great dramatic moments. Yeah. It sounds cheesy to say it, but when Harrison Wells finally says, I'm on board, and he just yells at the Flash to run to reverse a tornado, which great visual effect for a TV series.
That was a cool,
I got chills. It was a really, really good moment. That's what he needed to hear, was for someone to actually believe in him, because no one ever did. I really bought that, and I really, really enjoyed that.
Am I on the same line here when I think that the CW do a much better job of like reinterpreting like superheroes, and like when I see Fox, I don't like the visuals as much compared to like as much as Fox is not as much about Batman right now at the moment, but the CW, I'm a big fan of watching shows and that before. I feel as if they do a much better job in visual effects and stuff like that. I was just making it seem a lot more superhero-esque for me. I thought
there's a lot more dramatic incident where people doing superhero-y things than we see in like a lot of other networks doing stuff like this.
Is Warner TV producing all of this? Shows?
They're definitely involved.
Because I think it's more about the production company necessarily than the network that winds up airing it. But I see your point. They look different.
It's completely different shows, and that's one of the reasons that attracted me into it. The one thing I did like, again, I'm not a fan of the comics. I don't know. But the Flash, and like I was surprised that people actually know already who he is. Like in that opening scene, like his father figure who is taken over from his dad being in jail. Like he's seen him in action and kind of knows like that's his role now. Whereas in other superheroes, he kind of flies under the radar for a little bit until someone finds out who he is.
I think that's good. I think that's one thing that Arrow did very, very well in this, was it gave a superhero story, which is often a very loner type story. It gave it an ensemble cast feel, and that's something that Arrow did really well. Same executive producers. They found a way to put a bunch of different characters in a story, and usually, most of the time, not always, give them all something to do, give them all their own story arcs, and really make it feel like a family, which is a very different interpretation, a lot of different things. But still, you do have some really clunky, awkward things in here. Like one of the worst.
Like when the lady from Star Labs gives her entire exposition in 30 seconds.
Again, pilot, we're getting it through. I'll give you that. But you know what? It was efficient. Damn it! I'll give you that.
We knew.
All he said was like, "Why are you not smiling?" And then bang, live story. He was just
Since you asked.
This is my one scene. We'll deal with it later. But like certain things were a little bit, okay, we got to do this. Like, don't tell Iris. Why? Why don't you tell Iris? How old is her? Like, she's going to be next to you anyway. He didn't say stop being her friend. Right. Like, at least in Amazing Spider-Man, he was like, stay the hell away from her in every possible way. He was just, don't tell her. And I'm like, that doesn't help her in any way. Well, it's awkward, but it's like
sweeps.
It's just, it's a function of a superhero dynamic, and there are certain things that we still haven't come up with a really good way to do. Like, how do people, we want to illustrate how people come up with their name, because we just said, I don't know, I'll call myself the Flash. Weird. In the original comic book, the Barry Allen comic book, he based himself off of a comic book character named the Flash. So there was that. But here we have to have someone say
it. And I think the first Flash, actually, that was like a mocking nickname, right?
Yeah, exactly. So you want to say like, yeah, you'll save people in a Flash. It's like, God, got it. That's great. Hey, but like say
that again.
Right. Or like, but if you notice Spider-Man, like a Sam Raimi Spider-Man vibe to this one, we had the voiceover, the very sort of playful voiceover telling about my story. I liked it. It was fun. But even just the early crappy version of his costume, so that the new version will look, even though it would be kind of ridiculous just to introduce. And here's your costume. Why do we need a costume?
The amazing batch and that red thing that he was wearing the first time. Now, here's my question, because I was a little confused about this. In the comics, it's just freak lightning and the chemicals. Here, you've got lightning and the chemicals and the particle accelerator. So we're to believe that this is him and the Weather Wizard, all the other guys. It's because of the particle accelerator.
That's the inciting incident. That's what gives you. There were a couple other supervillain type characters in Arrow. Mostly, it was just like criminals with a gimmick. But there were a couple of people who had like drugs that made them super strong or whatever, but very grounded overall. So the Large Hadron Collider thing is basically the inciting incident that will give us superheroes and villains from here on out.
Metahumans,
which is
DC
weird.
Term of choice.
DC owns superhero. They're allowed to say it. I don't understand whether.
This is what I want to know in terms of this. Like for me, I'm looking forward to watching it more. But is everyone he's going to fight the people that have been affected by this massive weather cloud, like the way it happens in Smallville, where everyone he fights is affected by the meteor? Is everyone that the Flash going to fight is someone that's affected by this disaster? Or is there going to be actual real life, maybe like people that are just actually criminals without any some sort
There's
of
probably going to be some.
I know the Pied Piper is coming.
Oh,
I read about that.
Yeah. Well, we got the Piper. We got Captain Cold. Historically, Captain Cold is just a guy with a gun that shoots freeze rays. So they might do something about that, but I don't mind it if they use characters with a history that have been created before and have been shown to work. Because in Smallville, they would create random monsters of the week, and it would just be frustrating.
The monsters would always come like, he took a bit of his inhaler and it happened to have a little bit of dust in it that came from the meteor, and suddenly they can spit fire.
The Flash Rogues Gallery has a lot of people with like the cold gun or the boomerangs or the weather gun or the whatever. So like I think they could work in people who just have a device.
That's what I'm
And the other thing is, even if that is the inciting incident for every superpowered character on this show, that ultimately, that's probably better in the long run than having to spend every single episode with a supervillain origin story.
Yeah, I agree. I just don't want to have that Smallville feel, because I love this idea. I just don't want it to have to come back and be like, he was actually standing 10 meters away from the Flash when this happened, and he got hit with something as well, and he got his powers from that. I would like there to be somewhat of every now and again, thrown an origin of a villain that came from before this accident happened.
Yeah. Let me ask you just real fast about the ending. Bit of a twist.
Why is he walking?
Harrison Wells, we thought he was in a wheelchair. He's walking. He's got futuristic technology and a newspaper headline from. Also, nice to know newspapers are still around. Newspaper from the future. Flash disappears in crisis. Two things about that. As we mentioned, crisis. Cool.
Although apparently it could be one of about 8 crises.
There's several different crises.
It could be the infinite crisis.
Yeah, it could be a bunch of different things. But let me ask you, who do you think Harrison Wells is?
I have no clue.
No theory? No. I think they want us to think he's Reverse Flash, but I don't think so.
Maybe he's Lex Luthor? I don't know.
I wanted to toss this out there because everyone's talking about, it's going to be Eobard Thawne, the Reverse Flash. My theory is this, and help me out, internet, let me know what you think. What if he's Rip Hunter? We've never found out. Rip Hunter is a time-traveling superhero who just fixes errors in the timeline, and we've never found out his real name, because if someone found out his real name, they could erase him from existence. Maybe they're setting him up to be a bad guy, and he's not. Maybe he's just trying to make sure the Flash happens.
Or maybe he's Booster Gold.
Ooh. That would be fun too.
I'm really intrigued to see, basically, to find out who he is, because I don't know whether he's bad or when I watch superhero comic, I'm like, right, bad guy, good guy. Like this guy is in between. I'm just trying to figure out. He's got a secret because he's like, I think he maybe covered himself up with the wheelchair so that people didn't felt kind of sympathetic about him because he caused this whole disaster. At the same time, you're also kind of like, as soon as he keeps that a secret and walks up, has he got something up his sleeve? Because he did want to use the Flash for his own personal research, right? Until that moment where he decided, run Flash, run and go and be yourself, I'll let you go.
But here's the question though, did he really want to use him for the research, or did he just want to give the Flash a motivation to decide to become a hero on his own?
Stay tuned to find out.
Makes you think.
That's a good tagline for the next episode.
We'll be back
this week.
Ideally starting on Thursdays with these recaps, so check it out. Thanks.